Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily News. I'm Nicholas Richardson. Poland's operational command of the armed forces has reported that an unmanned aircraft, most likely flew into Polish aerospace from over the Ukrainian town of Czerwonograd. General Maciej Klisz, commander of the operational command of the armed forces, reported that the object may be located in the Tyszowce municipality near Zamość.
An unidentified object flew into Polish territory just before 7 a.m. Polish time. It was observed by the military and confirmed by 3 radar stations. We ruled out here at the outset, because of the speed at which it was moving, the altitude and trajectory, that it could have been a ballistic missile or a guided missile. It is likely that it was a Shahed military drone sent by Russia into Ukraine. It was supposed to have flown into Polish territory at the height of the Ukrainian town of Czerwonograd during another intense attack by Russian criminals. The object disappeared after about 25 kilometers on Polish territory. Due to atmospheric conditions, I was not able to issue the command to fight it, due to the lack of fulfillment of procedures, i.e., the so-called visual confirmation of the destruction of the object. We need to make confirmations so that we do not make a mistake here. It would be unforgivable if it turned out that it was a Ukrainian stray helicopter or a stray light aircraft. But, among other things, according to former GROM commander, General Roman Polko, such objects should be shot down by the military. Certainly, such objects should be destroyed, because the war is going on beyond our borders, and we don't want armed means of aerial attack to threaten Polish citizens. This is not the first such case. Last week, 3 Russian meteorological balloons were found, 2 in the Masurian region and 1 in the Podlasie region. In December, a Russian rocket flew into our country's territory. From the early morning hours, the Russians conducted a massive attack on Ukraine. Explosions were reported primarily in Kyiv, but also in the Lviv region, neighboring Poland, and in Łódź, an hour's drive from the border. This was one of the most powerful attacks, and like most Russian attacks in the past, it targeted critical and civilian infrastructure in most of our oblasts, Kharkiv and Kyiv, Odessa, and the western oblasts. Unfortunately, there are casualties. Explosions were also heard in several other cities, including Kharkiv, Kryvyi Rih, and Dnipro. The Russians fired missiles from strategic bombers and sent dozens of drones over Ukraine. The attack is intended as revenge for the actions of Ukrainian troops in Russia's Kursk region. Maksymilian Maszenda, Republika.
Elections in the United States are approaching fast. The closer we get to the 5th of November, the more the election campaign intensifies. The debate between candidates Donald Trump and Kamala Harris will take place on the 10th of September. Earlier, the Democratic candidate refused to clash with Trump on Fox News. The Republican candidate's endorsement was given by Robert Francis Kennedy Jr., the nephew of the assassinated United States president. Our correspondent, Tomasz Grywachewski, is in New York. As recently as early August, advertising slogans, "Only Kennedy can beat Trump," could be seen on the streets of New York. However, this is now a thing of the past. Independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. this past weekend suspended his election campaign and endorsed Donald Trump. President John F. Kennedy's nephew attracted anti-establishment voters who can now at least partially support the Republican candidate. The summer vacation is coming to an end, and the Trump campaign is once again gaining momentum. It was one of the darkest days in modern American military history. Exactly 3 years ago, 13 soldiers were killed in a bomb attack at the gate of Kabul airport in Afghanistan. These images circulated around the world. The chaotic retreat of coalition forces and the surrender of the capital to the Taliban. Thousands of people trying to escape the revenge of the militants. Responsibility for those events has been blamed to this day on the Joe Biden administration.
And I just went to Arlington Cemetery, and you saw we had a ceremony with the parents, the sisters in one case, brothers in another case, and these are people that should have never been killed. And when you see the fact that nobody's mentioning Afghanistan, no, this is the 3rd year. This is, I hate to even call it an anniversary, because I don't like the word anniversary in this case, but this is the 3rd year of that tragic event.
It is no coincidence that Donald Trump appeared at Arlington Military Cemetery today. The Army is one of the most important symbols of the strength for Americans. Neither President Biden nor Vice President Harris was at Arlington today. This is a clear turnaround in the Republican campaign, which analysts point out will focus on security issues and American strength for the rest of the campaign. Americans hold their soldiers and situations in which they needlessly die as a result of political decisions in very high regard. This was the case with Kabul and Joe Biden's decisions. They will certainly not build popularity, and recalling this history is one of the key elements that will indicate that Republicans will provide this security for Americans differently. The issue of security for Americans closes in two areas. One is international issues, support for Israel, Ukraine and Taiwan. The other is domestic security, mainly dealing with illegal migration.
As a nation of immigrants and reform our broken immigration system, we can create an earned pathway to citizenship and secure our border.
Trump has already shifted the trajectory of his campaign in the direction of the migrant crisis. Americans are not divided on this issue. The vast majority expect more effective migration policies.
She wants open borders. She wants our country. I don't understand why anybody would want it, but she wants our country to be open to the world's criminals.
On top of that, there are specific economic solutions, in addition to the well-worn slogan America First, namely encouraging companies to invest at home rather than abroad. Trump goes into microeconomics, which is of huge importance to thousands of Americans, and declares the abolition of taxes on tips, a nod to the middle class. It's also different in the way Kamala Harris likes to talk about freedom in the broadest sense, and has a staff of people who point to her as the outstanding candidate, while Donald Trump relates to the average American. Therefore, the televised debate may turn out to be the key in this case, and who proves that they will not so much solve as understand the problems of today's America in general. Kamil Chaska, TV Republica. Vulgarity and incitement to hatred. This is the picture of the party event Campus Poland of the Future. Young people gathered at the event loudly shouted slogans against law and justice. Everything happened with the approval of Donald Tusk's government ministers. Importantly, the Polish Prime Minister did not condemn the appalling event, writing on social media that anyone may sing. On the other hand, a few hours earlier during the event, there had been a discussion about the hate speech that is flooding Polish society, obviously criticising the phenomenon. Are these not the Himalayas of hypocrisy?
This is not a drunken party, but a disco at an event under the patronage of leading politicians from the December 13th coalition. This is how young people celebrated at the Campus Poland of the Future event, organized by Warsaw Mayor Rafał Trzaskowski. This is how these lumpen elites are created, who are supposed to lead Poland in the future. Politicians, as can be seen among young people, try to arouse such animalistic emotions in their supporters, such atavistic reflexes towards their political opponents. The youths were spurred on by politicians from Donald Tusk's camp. The footage shows, among others, Minister of Sport and Tourism Sławomir Nitras and Minister of European Union Affairs Adam Szłapka. According to Salon 24, next to the politicians in a white t-shirt is Łukasz Mężyk, the creator and owner of the website 300 Polityka. The song text is full of profanity, hatred, and seems to encourage violence. The video evokes the thought of how political militias are schooled. And yet, a few hours before this event, the following words were spoken, word for word, from the mouth of a civic coalition politician. Hate is a political tool. It is generally a tool only to make money, to gain and keep power. It is generally a tool to gain power. Such pictures show nothing but a deep hypocrisy. But some civic coalition politicians pretend that nothing happened and that they saw nothing. Will you go to the campus event despite the hate? What hate? Well, this hate. Have you not seen the recordings of your colleagues listening to those famous 8 stars? Minister Nitras, Minister Szłapka. I have not seen them. Prime Minister Donald Tusk addressed the issue. Everyone can sing, some better, some a little worse. Sometimes you have to, otherwise you'll choke. This is a tacit permission for these ruthless attacks. And since the permission is there, Tusk's politicians are gaining power with the help of the youth, while fueling the machine of hatred against people with different views. It is sad that I saw some of my colleagues there, colleagues from the University of Warsaw, including Daria Brzezicka, who, after all, was the first to fight, as it was formulated in the accusations, inappropriate public activity in my case. However, it seems that the devil has dressed himself in a priest's robe and is ringing the bell at mass with his tail. Sławomir Nitras now tries to explain himself. This is a party, there are young people. It was a disco party at 11 p.m. I don't know what was played on the speakers because I wasn't listening to the speakers at the time. But when we heard it, we asked them not to do it, even though they owned the event, because it was a disco. It is not a panel that we organized, it is a disco. I regret that this happened, but I also understand the feelings. That is all. Regarding the hate party, Marcin Romanowski of Sovereign Poland filed a complaint with the police. Meanwhile, questions are being raised as to who is behind the financing of the hate mechanism encouraged by the current government. After all, one of the partners of Campus Poland of the future is the German Konrad Adenauer Foundation. Under the current government, hate is flowing in streams. There are comic books on the market with the character Liquidator, created by Ryszard Dąbrowski, and in them are drawings of Paweł Kukiz, Zbigniew Ziobro, and Jarosław Kaczyński burning at the stake. Recently, the author has been eagerly bragging about them on social media, for example, depicting the execution of Krzysztof Stanowski. Irrespective of the artistic aspect, this could be interpreted as incitement to commit a concrete crime. This is all part of the process of suppressing political opposition in Poland. All this is organized to destroy the opposition in Poland, to destroy law and justice, which is why for weeks we have been observing a spectacle aimed at putting pressure on the National Electoral Commission. The decision of the National Election Commission on the financial report of Law and Justice for the campaign in the last parliamentary elections is due on Thursday. The presidential election campaign is upon us, and as you can see, Civic Platform is not at all confident that it will win, so it is using the National Election Commission as an instrument to prevent Law and Justice from conducting a normal election campaign. Law and Justice is not laying down its arms. By delaying the decision on subsidies for Law and Justice, the officials of the National Election Commission are plunging Poland's largest opposition party into debt. We will consider various steps, as well as personal liability before the courts for members of the National Election Commission who work to the financial detriment of Law and Justice. In the hateful fight against the opposition, Donald Tusk's politicians are trying to involve young people. Daniel Śmieciński, Republika.
A note has appeared on the German government website stating that the Berlin government believes the case for reparations for German crimes and damages to Poland is already closed. Olaf Scholz's cabinet claims that Donald Tusk's government is not making any demands on the issue of reparations, which were calculated during the United Right government's term of office to amount to more than 6 trillion zloty. A document drawn up by the government in Berlin and uncovered by Aleksandra Fedorska shows that Donald Tusk's government has renounced the reparations owed to Poland for the damage done by the Germans during the Second World War. In accordance with the Polish-German Action Plan for Bilateral Cooperation, which the two governments agreed on the occasion of intergovernmental consultations in Warsaw on the 2nd of July 2024, the two governments are in the midst of an intensive dialogue on measures to support the surviving victims of the German invasion and occupation from 1939 to 1945, remembrance and security. The German government is in constant confidential dialogue and close coordination with the Polish government. The Polish government is not making any demands. The communiqué on Poland's waiver of reparations for German crimes during World War II appeared on the official website of the German government on Friday. Donald Tusk's government is clearly misleading Poles because they are telling the Polish media that they are doing something, that a dialogue is taking place, and when there are some concrete details, they will give more information. The German side has just given the details. The Tusk government has done absolutely nothing and has made no demands. This is in response to questions from AfD parliamentarians. The government in Berlin writes that it allegedly has no obligation under international law to pay reparations to Poland after World War II. It refers here to the alleged renunciation of reparations by the Soviet-dependent communist Polish authorities in 1953. This was a Communist Party communique published in a newspaper, but it never made it into any government journal. And in fact, Poland was forced into this act by Joseph Stalin. According to the German memo, reparations to Poland were allegedly to be paid by the Soviets.
Ta notatka, czy odpowiedź tego Bundestagu.
This memo, an answer to the Bundestag, shows that Poland allegedly received reparations, which is a lie. Poland did not receive any reparations. On the contrary, it still had to pay a tribute for the fact that the Soviets expelled the Germans from Poland. At the beginning of July, during Olaf Scholz's recent visit to Poland, Donald Tusk, acting as the German Chancellor's spokesman, argued, "There is no such gesture that would satisfy Polish men and women. There is no such sum of money that would compensate for all that happened during the Second World War." Donald Tusk said that instead of reparations, he had agreed with Chancellor Scholz on compensation for the surviving victims of German aggression against Poland and the enigmatic Polish-German house in Berlin. The issue of reparations cannot be dropped in any way. It is not only a matter of historical justice, but also financial compensation. And the Law and Justice government has been very active in seeking this compensation. Under the Law and Justice government, a report on the losses suffered by Poland was presented on the 1st of September. Compensation for material and immaterial losses caused by Germany during the Second World War was calculated at more than 6,220 billion zloty. The issue has never been formally settled in Polish-German relations. There is no bilateral agreement between Poland and Germany on reparations. A month after the presentation of the report on Polish losses, the then Foreign Minister Zbigniew Rau sent a diplomatic note to the German side on war reparations. The German Foreign Ministry replied that, in Berlin's view, the issue of reparations to Poland remained closed. The fact that today the Germans claim, to their satisfaction, that the issue is closed is due to their attitude of closing themselves to dialogue and negotiations, but also to the attitude of Donald Tusk, who does not raise this issue and instead receives great international support from Germany. On the 12th of September, Donald Tusk will receive another German award in Potsdam for his merits in strengthening democracy, with a laudation by Chancellor Olaf Scholz. Radosław Jankiewicz, TV Republika. That's the news. Thank you for watching. And from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.